017-172 Seattle. Carla Carlstrom on behalf of the state, Kevin Dolan on behalf of Mr. Felice, who is present in custody this afternoon. We're present for the sentencing of Mr. Felice on one count of murder in the second degree. Your Honor, Mr. Felice has an offender score of 0, so his range in this matter is 123 to 220 months. I do want to say a few words before I give the state's recommendation, and that is that, as the court's aware, this case was originally charged as murder in the first degree. The state charged it under the felony murder by robbery theory. Throughout the course of the progression of the case, the state did develop some evidentiary concerns over the robbery element, and the state did ultimately, through negotiations with the defense, agree to reduce the charge to murder in the second degree, and that's what Mr. Felice pled guilty to. I do want to make sure the court is aware that the reduction of charges in this case in no way expresses any doubt on the part of the state that Mr. Felice committed this murder, that Mr. Felice did so intentionally, and he is indeed being sentenced today for intentional murder in the second degree. Actually, I think it was felony murder by assault, but he assaulted Mr. Stabile that evening and killed him. Again, after a lengthy process of negotiations, defense counsel and I arrived at an agreed recommendation of 140 months of prison time for Mr. Felice, and I am asking the court to follow that recommendation today. Mr. Stabile, and to his friends and family, many of whom are here today, he was known as Hokum Jeebs, was a man who had many people who loved and cared for him, who were very affected by what happened here today, and some of those people will speak today. I wanted to make sure the court received the numerous letters that were submitted on behalf of the victim in this case from many of those friends and family. Also present today in court are the detectives who investigated this case and were responsible for charges being able to be brought, and that's Detective Cooper and Detective Hokum W from the Seattle Police Department. Your Honor, in addition to recommending the agreed 140 months, we would ask this court to impose no contact for life between the defendant and Dr. Anita Schaefer, as well as the family of Robert Stabile. We would ask the court to impose the mandatory 36 months of community custody when Mr. Felice gets out of prison. We would ask the court to order a payment of $2,837.36 of restitution. Defense has already agreed and signed off on that order. We will submit that to the court today. We would also ask the court to impose the mandatory financial penalties as well as the non-mandatory financial penalties. That concludes what I have to say, Your Honor. At this time, there's at least 3 individuals who do want to speak to the court prior to you imposing the sentence, and I'm going to ask them to come up one at a time. The first of those is Mr. Stabile's good friend and partner, Dr. Anita Schaefer, and I'm going to have her come up now this time and speak to the court. As she does so, Your Honor, I do want to hand forward a photograph of Mr. Stabile. I believe the court received it, but it does epitomize what he was, which was a performer, and in that picture he is doing something he loved, and I'd ask the court to just have that while you hear from his friends and family. Dr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Dr. Schaefer, could you just state your name for the record, please?
Anita Schaefer.
Thank you. You may proceed.
It was hard for me to decide exactly what to say today. I wrote, as you know, I wrote a very long letter to you, Judge Eric, describing Hokum and our life together and what his loss has meant to me. And I have read that, so it doesn't make any sense for me to repeat that. And so I'd like to address you, and I'd also like to address my friends who have come today in support of Hokum. I'd also like to address you, Angelo. I ask your permission to call you that, and technically that would have to be a grandson because this is my colleague, Mr. Felice. I wanted to say that we all know what a wonderful and unique person Hokum was. I call him by his stage name, Hokum W. Jeebs. His real name was Robert Stabile. Funny, smart, incredibly talented, very warm, giving. We had a wonderful life together, and you loved him as well. You know, we're all going to lose our loved ones someday. Cancer, heart attack, dementia. murder is particularly difficult because someone made an intentional decision to deprive us of our income. It's a hard thing. It's also hard to know that the last few minutes of his life, he was terrified. I'll say, which I think most of you have heard me say, but perhaps not some of the others that are here today, but I believe that Hokum may have saved my life by his behavior that night. He had the presence of mind, even though frightened and being pursued around the house, to lead his attacker outside instead of up to my room where I was sleeping, where I could well have been injured. And at the end of his life, he was able to come up to be with me at the end of his life, which was a very precious thing to me. Through the able work of the detectives, and actually, I understand someone certainly must have a lot through the rest of the line. His attacker was apprehended and is here today to be sentenced for that murder. No amount of prison time could possibly bring back what we lost. So, what can we gain from this? I think it is to embrace nonviolence, to embrace caring, to be examples to young people who need examples of how full of life and light the world can be. And I invite you all to join in that resolution today. And I wanted to just finish my remarks with quoting from a song, I'm not going to sing it, that we say in my church at the end of my service. Remember. As we go now from this moment, as we leave behind our time together, may we care for one another. May we realize how precious we are. I hope that you realize that someday, Angelo. On behalf of all of us that love Hokum, thank you for letting me speak.
Dr. Schaefer, thank you.
The next speaker, Your Honor, is another friend of Hokum's, and that's Tony Zamperio.
Thank you. Sir, good afternoon. If you would just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Anton, A-N-T-O-N, Zafario, Z-A-F-E-R-E-O.
Just very.
I very, very dearly miss my friend Bob Steele and Hokum. It's almost odd to call him Bob because he was Hokum when I met him. He's been Hokum, I think, most of his life. He was well beyond being one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. And I've had some great friends. This guy was truly unique. Certainly became part of my extended family, and we've known each other a long time. Those of us who are here today, and many others who aren't, have been rocked by this whole event just as surely as Hokum has been murdered. He was the reason that many of us ever met in the first place. So I'm glad I can be here today with the whole gang. Not really, but I'm glad we're here. Mr. Felice sounded like had discussed doing some house slicks, home invasion robberies, doing something to get money with people before this happened. It seems to me that Hokum turned out not to be the cooperative robbery victim that Mr. Felice was hoping he would have been. Had he not met Hokum, I suspect he would have found some family to do this to. He clearly, I think, went to the house with the full intent to at least commit robbery and ended up viciously murdering my friend. I know because I saw it after. It was tough to see that he'd obviously been chased around. It's going to be a hard thing to keep down as a memory, I would say. Thanks very much to the diligence of neighbors in the West Seattle blog. Thank you so much for publishing stuff just as it happened. And to the officers and detectives on the police department, thank you so much. And to your office as well. Appreciate you guys working on our behalf. I was sickened to hear that this could result in being released in under 11 years. I'm stunned that the law would allow such a mild punishment for such a just an egregious, heinous act of selfishness. Sadly, I'm fairly convinced that the world will have more of this to look forward to when he is released. I hope that's not the case, I really do. I don't know what this will help with it, but at least make sure it doesn't happen to somebody else for some period of time. I therefore respectfully request that you give full consideration to sentencing Mr. Felice for the longest term allowed by our laws under your situation, as a clear indication to him that these actions are just at the most extreme end of unacceptable that we've even bothered to define. 20 years for murdering Hokum would still seem a terribly light sentence to me. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. And, rest in peace, Hokum.
All right, thank you.
Next, Your Honor, is another friend, Michael Milnick. And Mr. Milnick is going to speak and also read a letter on behalf of another friend.
Thank you. Sir, good afternoon. If you would please state your name for the record.
Yes, Your Honor, my name is Michael Melnick, M-I-E-L-N-I-K, and as Hokum was known as Hokum, I was known as Chumley for the 20-some years I worked with him artistically. And first, I'd like to read a letter from another one of our colleagues in vaudeville, Doug McKechnie, who resides in the Bay Area and can't be here today. Then I'll make a brief comment. Robert Stabile, otherwise known as Hokum W. Jeebs, was my great good friend. We were like brothers. We were brothers. We met in midlife as fellow travelers on the path to adventure as musicians and performers during an extraordinary era in the performing arts in the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 70s. We became a family, birds of a feather, members of a special tribe of beings, artists and performers. He was a very special person, a brilliant performer, and a teacher who loved life and his friends. In my life, he is missed every day. Young man, hear me well. Your brain is still developing, and you've done a terrible thing for which you will pay a terrible price. I do not know you or wish you ill in spite of the grief you have caused me and those of us who knew and loved Hokum. Justice is being served here, and you should be grateful for that as you are being allowed to live. If and when you become fully conscious, you will have the choice to attempt to make amends. Even in the world you're entering, there are ways to redemption and forgiveness, but only if you develop the ability to understand and see things as they really are. My one consolation is that after this, I will never have to give you another thought. Doug McKechnie, July 9, 2012.
Thank you, sir.
And I would like to just make a brief statement. It was so unnecessary. You took a dear friend, an uncle to my kids. It was just so unnecessary. My only wish is that you develop a conscience and are tormented by it until it motivates you to do something good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anything else? Your Honor, I believe that is all, and that concludes anything that we have to say this time.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. You received the defense pre-sentence report
I did.
and the supplemental.
I did.
I reiterate with the prosecution that we worked very diligently to get to the place and the recommendation we're making in court. And we both believe that this is a fair recommendation for a sentence. And the defense is asking to go to the verdict.
Thank you, counsel. I'm just looking to make certain I have the supplement.
I have one if the court misled it.
Oh, no, I did get this.
Right.
Yes, I did read this. Thank you.
And for the record, counsel, the prosecution has both letters that I provided in court.
Thank you.
Mr. Felice, you have this opportunity. If you'd like to speak to the court, you are not required to say anything. If you would like to, you may.
Yes, Your Honor. First, I'd like to apologize to the victim's family and all their loved ones. My actions took away someone they loved, and there's no amount of apologies, of anything I can say that can truly bring anything back, that can take away their pain or sorrow that they're going to have to live through. Every day I've had to wake up with knowing what I did caused someone else some pain. And even my own family embarrassed me. And there's nothing I can do to bring anyone back. There's no amount of apologies I can say. I know throughout this time I'm just going to make it as beneficial as I can, and when I get out try to help someone else from making a mistake I did, because one small mistake can change a lot of people's lives. And I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, and I'm really sorry, I'm sincerely sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Felice.
This matter is before the court for sentencing on one count of murder, second degree. Robert Stabile. I think it doesn't need to be said that this is a tragedy all around. Obviously for a very loved and beloved victim, Hokum Stabile. And for his friends and family, so many of you whose letters I have read over the past several days. Tragedy for the defendant here, who will be entering prison as a young man, will be leaving as he approaches the middle age of life. I've read the background of the defendant. It's clear to me that he had an unfortunate, challenging upbringing, characterized as the proverbial lost soul who ended up welcomed into the home of Mr. Stabile. As to the victim, Hokum, there were suggestions made that perhaps he engaged in some inappropriate type of conduct. Nobody really knows what happened that night, except for one person here. That's Mr. Felice. But the victim's not here to defend himself or his reputation. But there's no actions or conduct possibly justify having his life cut short like this. I know none of you have probably been in this courtroom before, but it is relatively infrequent that this court does not give significant deference to the parties through their counsel, who are the ones who have worked together, know their cases, the strengths and the weaknesses, and they reach a recommended resolution to the court. But it is only a recommendation. The court has an independent obligation to do what is just and what is fair. There's nothing that I can do today to bring back Hokum. But I can try to give him some justice for this senseless crime and for this needless loss to his friends and to his family members. Mr. Felice, I hope you do take this time to turn your life around, to realize the senselessness of your acts, the grief that it has caused in the hearts of so many. The sentence of this court is for 175 months in prison. It will be followed by 36 months of community custody, $500 mandatory victim penalty assessment, a $100 DNA collection fee. Mr. Felice has been screened and found to be indigent. I will waive the non-mandatory court costs. There is a restitution claim here. Mr. Dolan, is that agreed, or do you wish to have it?
Well, I've already signed it, so we're passing it forward to the court.
Restitution, the amount of $2,837.36 will be imposed. No contact with Dr. Anita Schaefer or the immediate family of victim Robert Stabile. That is the sentence of the court. Mr. Felice, you'll be receiving significant paperwork to review. You do have a right to appeal the judgment and sentence of the court today. Within 30 days, or your right to appeal is lost or waived. There may be other grounds for which you may seek review before the courts of appeal. It must be brought within different time periods that you may discuss with your attorney. Because this is a felony conviction, you lose certain of your civil rights. You are no longer eligible to possess, control, or own a firearm for the rest of your life, unless that right is reinstated by a court. If you violate that prohibition, it's a separate law violation for which you may be prosecuted. In addition, if you are a U.S. citizen, you lose your right to vote in public elections unless and until that right is reinstated. You receive a form advising of the loss of those civil rights. If you have any questions, you may inquire of your counsel.
Defense has reviewed and signed the judgment and sentence, which we going forward to the court.
Thank you, counsel. Court is handing down the notice of ineligibility to possess a firearm and loss of right to vote. Mr. Felice is to be served in open court with his copy of that notice.
All right, for the record, defense will acknowledge receipt of the notice of rights on appeal, waive any further formal reading. We'll also acknowledge notice of ineligibility to possess firearm and loss of right to vote. And those to be
Thank you, Mr. Dolan.
Thank you, Your Honor.